Every day, around the world, more than 60 million people walk into a McDonald's. They order a burger, some fries, a drink that costs the company a few cents. And here's the strange part. On that burger, the actual food, McDonald's makes very little. The margins are thin. The competition is brutal. The prices are kept deliberately, almost suspiciously, low. So, if the food barely makes money, how did this company become worth hundreds of billions of dollars? The answer is hiding in plain sight. It's underneath every restaurant you've ever visited. Because McDonald's biggest business was never the burger. It was the ground the burger was cooked on. To understand how this happened, you have to go back to a man who didn't invent McDonald's. He weaponized it. In 1955, a milkshake machine salesman named Ray Kroc opened his first McDonald's franchise. He'd seen the original restaurant run by the McDonald brothers in California, and he saw something they didn't fully grasp. This thing could go everywhere. So Kroc started selling franchises. Find an operator, let them open a McDonald's, take a small cut of the sales. It sounds like a great business. It wasn't. The cut McDonald's took from each franchise was tiny, a slice of revenue that barely covered the cost of running the company. Kroc was building one of the most recognizable brands on earth, and it was almost going broke doing it. The burgers sold, the brand grew. The money didn't follow. Something was missing, and the man who found it wasn't a chef or a salesman or a marketer. He was an accountant. His name was Harry Sonneborn. Sonneborn looked at McDonald's the way an outsider looks at a magic trick. He ignored the burger everyone was staring at and watched the hand nobody was watching. And what he noticed was simple. Every new McDonald's needed the same thing before it could sell a single fry: a piece of land and a building to put on it. The franchisees needed locations. Locations meant real estate, and real estate was something a company could own. So Sonneborn proposed an idea that quietly rewired the entire company. McDonald's wouldn't just sell franchises. McDonald's would find the location. McDonald's would buy or lease the land. McDonald's would put the building on it. And then, this is the turning point, McDonald's would lease that property to the franchisee. The operator who wanted to run a McDonald's wasn't just buying into a brand anymore. They were becoming a tenant, and McDonald's was becoming their landlord. In 1956, they made it official, creating a company to run the strategy, the Franchise Realty Corporation. On paper, McDonald's still sold hamburgers. In reality, it had just entered the real estate business. Here's where the strategy turns from clever into something close to genius. When McDonald's leased a property to a franchisee, it didn't charge them what it paid. It charged them more. A markup, often somewhere in the range of 20 to 40% above McDonald's own cost for the site. But it didn't stop at a fixed rent. The franchisee also paid a percentage of their sales. So the better a restaurant did, the more burgers it sold, the more rent flowed back to McDonald's corporate. Think about what that means. McDonald's now had two ways to win from a single restaurant. It collected a steady, marked-up rent no matter what. And it collected a slice of the upside whenever business was booming. The franchisee took the risk. The franchisee worked the long hours. The franchisee flipped the burgers. And McDonald's, sitting underneath all of it, owned the floor they stood on and got paid whether the day was good or bad. The food was never really the point. The food was the engine that generated the rent, and the man behind it said so himself. Harry Sonneborn once put it about as bluntly as a person can. We are not technically in the food business. We are in the real estate business. The only reason we sell 15-cent hamburgers is because they are the greatest producer of revenue from which our tenants can pay us our rent." That's not a critic's accusation. That's the company's own money man describing what McDonald's actually was. But ownership did something else, something subtler and arguably more powerful than the money. It gave McDonald's control. When you own the land and the building, you don't just collect rent, you hold the keys. The franchisee runs the restaurant, but they run it on your property, under your terms. Keep the standards, follow the system, match the brand. Because the moment an operator stops playing by the rules, the company that owns the ground beneath them has enormous leverage. Other franchise businesses had to beg, sue, or negotiate to keep their operators in line. McDonald's could simply be the landlord. This is the part most people miss. The real estate strategy didn't just make McDonald's rich, it made McDonald's consistent. Every restaurant, on every corner, in every country, held to the same standard, partly because the company literally owned the floor. The burger you get in one city tastes like the burger in another. That sameness, that machine-like reliability, is built, in part, on a foundation of property law. Now, fast forward to today. McDonald's has more than 40,000 restaurants around the world. The vast majority, around 95%, are run by independent franchisees, not the company itself. But underneath those restaurants, the company owns a staggering amount of real estate. It owns most of the buildings its restaurants sit in and a large share of the land beneath them, leasing it all back to the operators who run the stores. On the company's own books, that property is carried at tens of billions of dollars. McDonald's reports land and buildings valued at roughly the high 20s of billions before depreciation. But here's the catch with real estate. What something is recorded as on a balance sheet and what it's actually worth can be two very different numbers. That land was bought decades ago, on corners that were once cheap and are now prime. Analysts who try to estimate the true market value of McDonald's property regularly land on figures that dwarf the official number, estimates that have run into the range of $100 billion and beyond. Whichever number you trust, the conclusion is the same. A company the world knows for Happy Meals is, by any honest measure, one of the largest real estate operations on the planet. It just happens to have a drive-through attached. So picture McDonald's as two businesses wearing a single uniform. The first business is the one you see. The kitchens, the fryers, the menu boards, the marketing, the brand you've known your whole life. That business sells food, and it does it at razor-thin margins on purpose. Because cheap, fast, familiar food is what fills the restaurants. The second business is the one you don't see. It's a landlord. It owns property in tens of thousands of the busiest locations on Earth, and it collects rent and royalties from the people running those restaurants. Money that flows in with the steadiness of a property empire, not the volatility of a kitchen. The first business exists to feed the second. The cheap burger isn't a weakness in the model, it's the bait. It pulls in the customers, which keeps the franchisees profitable, which keeps the rent flowing to the company that owns the land. Every value meal is, in a quiet way, a rent collection. So why does any of this matter to you, standing in line for fries? Because it changes what you're actually looking at. That building isn't just a restaurant. It's an asset on a balance sheet. That corner wasn't chosen for your convenience alone. It was chosen because it's valuable ground. The low price on the menu isn't generosity. It's the cost of keeping the machine running. McDonald's figured out something that most companies never do. The thing customers come for doesn't have to be the thing that makes you rich. Sometimes the product everyone's staring at is just the doorway to the business hiding behind it. brothers who started it were selling burgers. Ray Kroc was selling a brand, but the man who made McDonald's an empire understood the real product all along. It was never the food, it was the dirt under your feet. The next time you pull into a McDonald's, look past the arches for a second. You're not just standing in a restaurant. You're standing on one of the most valuable collections of real estate ever assembled, disguised brilliantly as the cheapest meal in town. The burger was never the business. The burger was just how they bought the world, one corner at a time.